Mark Carney met with Canada's premiers for the first time as Prime Minister. They gathered at the War Museum in Ottawa ahead of the expected Sunday election call. Talks included the ongoing trade wars with the U.S. and China. And once the meeting was over, Carney outlined a series of initiatives, including linking energy development across the country and removing interprovincial trade restrictions. He says it's a move that will build economic resiliency in Canada.
We'll work with the provinces and other stakeholders, Indigenous groups, to identify projects of national significance and accelerate the time frame to build them. You look to the Ring of Fire in Ontario in partnership with Indigenous peoples. Ports like Grays Bay in Nunavut, which links down through the Northwest Territories and into Alberta, and the Le Port de Montréal. The second Narrows in British Columbia, which frees up additional exports. And very importantly, action, not words, but action on carbon capture and storage. We are committing to table legislation by the 1st of July for goods to travel across the country barrier-free or free of barriers, of federal barriers. So we're combing through all federal legislation for those barriers. We intend to, from a federal level, to have free trade by Canada Day.
I want to take you now to Brampton and a major transit announcement today. An extension of the Hazel-McCallion LRT was announced as a result of federal funding, and Clara Pasica has all those details.
It was a full house at Brampton City Hall with the place packed to the rafters, people eager to celebrate this funding announcement. This will be the extension of the LRT, which starts down in Port Credit and goes into Brampton, but will now be extended fulsomely into Brampton with 4 kilometers more of line with this new announcement that the federal government is willing to step in with the funding. Here's the mayor of this city, Patrick Brown.
Sometimes it takes big investments and vision to achieve something that will be transformative for the city. This tunneled LRT project, this planned 4-kilometer extension, will create 33,000 new housing units, and economic growth will include 17,000 jobs. That's enormous.
There was certainly a big crowd here with 3 levels of government on hand cheering each other on. There were actually signs the city had made thanking the Liberal minister for the funding. Certainly not something you see every day. And it actually had more of the mood of a campaign rally of sorts, which could be pretty apropos considering that an election is right around the corner. There were also a few partisan comments made. Have a listen.
None of this happens without strong local Liberal representation in the city. And we are going to be a strong partner on transit. We're going to be a strong partner for Brampton in every possible way that we can. We're going to be a strong partner to make sure that we are delivering on the baseline stream on big projects like this.
Nonetheless, the theme of all 3 levels of government working together here was very dominant, and that's something that this transit advocate loves to see.
That's exactly what needs to happen. That's how the Ottawa LRT was funded. That's how the Hamilton LRT was founded. That's how Edmonton, SkyTrain, Montreal, Quebec City, Gatineau. That's how all these projects are done, by collaboration and levels of government working together.
Now, when this project will be completed, that's still a question. It's one that we posed to the levels of government here. The Ontario Transportation Minister, Prabmeet Sarkaria, says that the project is being prioritized and they'll be getting shovels in the ground just that much quicker. Clara Pasica, CBC News, Brampton.
In Toronto, the supervised consumption site in Leslieville has officially shut its doors tonight because of provincial legislation restricting them from operating near schools or daycares. Nearby that Leslieville site, a mother was killed by a stray bullet back in 2023, prompting the province to do all of this review. As Nama Weingarten reports, members of the community have some mixed thoughts on whether or not the site closing will keep them safe.
Outside the South Riverdale Community Health Center lies a memorial commemorating all the people the center knew who died of overdoses. The center's supervised consumption site, called Keep 6, officially closed Friday, and its CEO says that means more names might be added to the list.
We need to remember the lives we've lost, but also those we've saved over the last 8 years, and figure out how we continue to support people.
It's one of 10 centers ordered closed by the end of the month after provincial legislation barred all supervised consumption sites within 200 meters of schools and daycares. The Riverdale site specifically has been the focus of much debate after a mother of two, Carolina Hubner-Mukarat, was killed in 2023. She was shot by a stray bullet near the center. Her death sparked the Ministry of Health to review all consumption sites. The closure is continuing to spark mixed reactions.
There's something a little unsettling about walking with my children and seeing people high on drugs on the street.
You know, they're our neighbors too, the people that use and need these sites, and their lives are now more at risk.
Alan Malloy owns a shop right across the street. He says he gets why the center is closing, but he fears it'll just make the drug crisis more visible.
Closing down the site is just going to move them to the laneways, or it's going to move them into private properties, but it's not going to get rid of the problem. The main problem is that these people need hope.
The center's harm reduction programming will still be there. Those services will expand into a new program, the East Toronto Heart Hub. But what the new hub won't provide is a supervised consumption site or harm reduction supplies like clean needles.
My hope would be some of those individuals will access the remaining consumption and treatment services that exist in the city. But the future is uncertain. And I think the challenge is that we can expect that more people will die from overdose.
In a statement, the Ministry of Health says it's absolutely false to suggest heart hubs won't be able to offer the same services as safe injection sites. Unless, of course, you're speaking about the use of illicit drugs near schools and daycares, in which case, no, that won't occur at heart hubs. It also said that by becoming a heart hub, the site will be eligible for 4 times more funding than before and will offer more comprehensive services. The heart hub meant to serve clients from the health center will open here on the Danforth, where as of right now, a sign for a pharmacy is still up. The province says the 9 transitioning heart hubs, including 4 in Toronto, are set to open on April 1st. Nama Weingarten, CBC News, Toronto.
A man has been arrested and charged with first-degree murder in connection to a man who was found dead on the University of Toronto campus yesterday. Police called the incident a homicide, adding it was all captured on security cameras, and officers say they were able to find the suspect quickly thanks to a tip from the public. Greg Ross has that story.
Police were called to this University of Toronto building Thursday morning just before 8:30 after a man was discovered unresponsive.
He had visible injuries, he was unconscious, and he was not breathing.
Attempts to revive him were unsuccessful, and he was pronounced dead on the scene.
The victim has been identified as Mario Ferreira, 60, of Toronto. Mr. Ferreira was an unhoused individual in the city.
The cause of Ferreira's death didn't become clear to police until after checking security footage from the area. They say Ferreira appeared to be sleeping on a bench, and at one point, the video clearly shows him being attacked by another man. They say the attacker was carrying a weapon that they would only describe as debris.
Without any warning or provocation, the suspect approaches Mr. Ferreira, who's lying on the bench, and he uses that debris to assault him repeatedly and violently. He then fled the area, still holding on to that debris that he had used to commit the assault with that weapon.
Police say that Ferreira suffered multiple injuries to his upper body. An autopsy has revealed that the cause of death was blunt force trauma. Police say the attack was completely unprovoked. Earlier today, they released these photos of the man they believe is responsible. He was arrested this afternoon and is now charged with first-degree murder. They were able to track his movements before Ferreira was killed.
Surveillance video shows the suspect walking nearby, originally in the area of Queen's Park Circle, on the grounds in the park area there. At some point, he arms himself with debris. Whether or not that comes from a construction site or a dumpster in the area, that's still to be determined.
News of Ferreira's murder spread quickly among U of T students today.
It's concerning, especially that it's on our U of T campus.
It's where we study, it's where we live, it's where we spend all-nighters. So I think it was a big impact and a damage to the mental health of our student body. So we're really scared to see what would happen and what measures will be in place for our safety in the future.
31-year-old Adam Abua-Chukwaka remains in police custody. He has a court appearance Saturday morning. Greg Ross, CBC News, Toronto.
Next to the downtown west, where a woman is dead after being struck by a pickup truck this afternoon.
It was reported that a 94-year-old female pedestrian had been struck by a pickup truck. The female pedestrian was transported to a local trauma hospital where sadly she succumbed to her injuries and has been pronounced deceased.
Emergency crews were called to the scene at King Street West and Massey Street just before 3:30 this afternoon. The driver involved remained at the scene, and police say the investigation into what happened is ongoing. Police are appealing for any witnesses to contact them. A Mississauga man has been found guilty in the high-profile kidnapping of a Toronto teenager 5 years ago. The judge ruled that Samir Abdel-Gadir was part of an elaborate plan to abduct the boy to pressure the teenager's older brother to pay back a drug debt. The boy's brother testified in court, saying he had stolen 90 kilograms of cocaine from one of Abdel-Gadir's associates 9 months earlier. The 14-year-old was kidnapped in the Jane and Finch area on March 4th, 2020, on his way to school and held for ransom in a Brampton home. The abduction prompted a citywide search, and he was found by police the next day in a barn unharmed. The judge says there is no reasonable doubt that Abdel-Gadir left his Mississauga home driving a Chevy Tahoe and, quote, stood by in the Tahoe to keep watch and assist in the kidnapping. A sentencing hearing for Abdel-Gadir is now set for mid-May. Looking ahead to Sunday, and downtown streets are expected to fill with thousands of pro-Palestinian demonstrators. The march is part of El Quds Day, an annual event held at the end of the Islamic holy month of Ramadan. But this year, given the renewed escalation of Israeli violence in Gaza, many more people are expected. And Toronto police gave an update today laying out their operational plans for Sunday.
This weekend, Toronto police will be highly visible. Our members will be present throughout the demonstrations, proactively identifying, when needed, instances of hate. I want to remind everyone that every reported instance of hate, including in demonstrations, will be investigated.
Roadway disruptions and restrictions should be anticipated in the downtown core on Sunday. As always, our top priority is to make sure everyone is safe. Our Major Incident Command Center will be operational, and we will be monitoring events very closely. We appeal to everyone heading downtown this weekend to stay peaceful and respectful.
Another important update, especially for drivers, a major highway in the GTA is closed for much of the weekend. The westbound QEW is going to see a full closure from Saturday night at 8 p.m. to Sunday morning at 11 a.m., while the eastbound lanes will be fully closed from 8 at night to 8 in the morning on Sunday. And then from 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. on Sunday, 2 lanes of the eastbound QEW will remain closed. That work is all due to demolition of the Dixie Bridge and storm sewer installation work. A longtime Liberal MP says the federal party is blocking him from running again in the upcoming federal election. Chandra Arya has represented the riding of Nepean since 2015 and had already been nominated to run again. In a letter from the Liberals' national campaign director, Arya was told new information had been obtained by the Liberal Party, leading to his candidacy being revoked. But the letter did not outline what that new information was. The decision opens up an Ottawa area riding, of course, as an option for Prime Minister Mark Carney, who does not have a seat in Parliament, and the election call is expected on Sunday. We have some video to show you of an unlikely duo traveling together in New Zealand. The video was actually released from the Auckland University just now, but it was shot back in 2023, and it shows an octopus riding on the back of a shark. A research team was monitoring a feeding frenzy when they spotted a strange orange mass on the shark's head, but after a closer look, they realized it was a coiled octopus hitching a ride on the huge predator, and of course, the nickname they gave it, you guessed it, Sharktopus. Welcome back. The Bay is liquidating all stores but 6. The department store giant applied for creditor protection after what it called significant financial shortfalls, and Ali Chiasson has that story.
Depending on who you ask, the Hudson's Bay is where you had your wedding registry or where you got your favorite blanket. If you ask other people, they might tell you it was just the shortcut they took through the mall.
I've just never really shopped there before, honestly. Oh, we'll miss them. They're an icon, right? Been around since I've been, before I've been born.
That's safe to say, considering it started as a trading post in 1670
And ever since, it's gone through many phases, with the Bay's heyday being the 20th century, when the department store was truly a one-stop shop.
Just came out of the Bay. So, and you find everything at the Bay.
Well, amid its liquidation arbitration, the company says it can keep 6 stores operating, 3 in Toronto and the GTA, at the Eaton Centre, Yorkdale Mall, and Hillcrest Mall in Richmond Hill. The other 3 are in and around Montreal. Any others across Canada are slated to close.
We're actually from Newfoundland.
Well, did you hear that? So they're going to keep 6 stores operating, but it's 3 in Toronto and 3 in Montreal. Anywhere in the East Coast or West Coast, they're all gone. What do you think about that?
Oh, I think it's really sad. I'm really hoping that they'll grow an online presence.
How did it come to this?
Probably the main one is the growth of online retailing and the fact that people can get almost all the things that you might buy in a Bay store online, and usually at a cheaper price and with more convenience.
We saw the fall of Simpsons, Eaton's, and Sears already. Soberman says the Bay has held on longer than it probably should have, but there is value in their branding. Think those iconic Hudson's Bay striped anything.
Who knows, maybe it will evolve into becoming an apparel or a branded manufacturer. But the world changes, and so did the Bay, and now it's going to have to change again.
I've had these for a few years now, and they've held up, and I've always felt that, you know, the Bay colors are such an iconic Canadian symbol, and it's really sad that maybe, you know, we won't be able to get these. I'll just have to knit them.
I mean, even if they did completely go out of business, 355 years is a good run.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Ali Chiasson, CBC News, Toronto.
3 years after being legalized, Ontario's online gambling and sports betting industry is booming. Now, in spite of that success, some experts say the sector is putting people at risk. And Tyler Cheese has that story.
It's been 3 years since Ontario officially launched its legal online gambling industry. And those who work in the sector say it's been going very well.
Everyone always knew that Ontario was a market with huge potential. But I mean, it has surpassed what anyone kind of expected it to be.
iGaming Ontario's most recent annual report indicates Ontarians wagered over $63 billion and generated over $2 billion in revenue for gaming platforms between 2023 and 2024. And with that boom comes economic growth.
The second full year of legalized sports betting contributed something like 15,000 jobs.
Add to that $2.7 billion for Ontario's GDP. But some advocates are still concerned with the amount of advertising the industry generates and the impact of it, especially on minors.
There has been an explosion of ads, completely, in our view, unregulated ads, which have led to a huge increase in gambling, sports betting, and related addictions.
The Alcohol and Gaming Commission of Ontario does put restrictions on how internet gaming is marketed, including
the ad should not be broadcast or presented in places where it's obvious that children and youth will see them, but we call them out for that all the time.
Instead, he wants to see the ads banned entirely as a matter of public health. Toronto's Centre for Addiction and Mental Health says it's seen a spike in calls to its helpline after the market opened.
There was a rapid escalation in how many people were calling the helpline regarding online gambling.
But he also notes the number of calls seemed to level off early last year. For online gambling, he recommends people use the limit setting and self-exclusion features required by the AGCO.
Use those tools, set them, and stick to it. Don't get impulsively sucked into the idea of gambling more, because there is no such thing as being due to win. And that is one of the most common erroneous beliefs that people have.
He's urging anyone who may be struggling with addiction to call the CAMH helpline or look into free recovery programs. Tyler Cheese, CBC News, Toronto.
All right, time now for a check on weather with Colette, and people should certainly get ready for a big change this weekend. Hey, Colette?
Yeah, thanks, Chris. I mean, here we go again with another pattern change. I guess we're getting pretty adept at adjusting to things. Don't have much of a choice when it comes to the weather, but the pattern change being that we've got some colder air that's going to be pushing in. So we kind of look at the thickness layers here, and definitely we get that into the weekend. It holds through Sunday, and then a little modification at the beginning of the week. Do I sound confident about that? I'll show you the 5-day forecast here in just a moment. But daytime highs from today, really pleasant day. It took some time, but once we got those winds kicking up from the southwest, plus with the sunshine, up to 8 degrees, beautiful 11 degrees. Kind of took into the afternoon hours there into the Windsor area too. And through the overnight, we'll get increasing cloudiness, but more importantly than that, it is a weak system, but there's a system that's going to swing through tomorrow morning. And with it, starting off as some showers, but then colder air is really pushing in behind this system. So changing over to some wet flurries, even for the GTA, and perhaps a centimeter or two, again, a little further north at Barrie. You had a bit of a dusting this morning, and you could have a little bit of a dusting tomorrow morning as well. But do know that once that moves through, although it's a weak system, the winds will not be weak behind it. So really blustery northwesterly winds tomorrow afternoon. The temperature will actually be cooler in the afternoon hours as that cold air keeps filtering in than it will be in the morning. So in the morning you get the precipitation, but in the afternoon drier. However, it will be cooler, plus we'll have a wind chill to contend with. It'll feel like -10 to just a bit further north, even -15. Now, Sunday, we kind of reverse things. The day starts off pretty nicely, just chilly, but it's later in the evening hours and overnight Sunday, we have another system coming through, and because of the cold air that will be in place, we could see a couple of centimeters of, some pretty wet snow that should melt pretty handily as we get into Monday with just a little bit of a warm-up. But still, Monday morning, could it be a little bit slow on the roads? Yes, it's possible. In general, though, we're talking, with what's coming through overnight tonight into tomorrow morning, just a trace or maybe a centimeter or two. Overnight temperatures, not too bad tomorrow morning, but those will keep sliding as we go through the day. And so 6 is early. By the afternoon, we're going to be down to about 2 degrees, and then we'll fall to -6 overnight Saturday into Sunday, and then that system Sunday night into Monday.
Yikes. All right, Colette, we will be ready for that. And that is our show for you tonight. Thanks so much for joining us. Have a great night and a great weekend.